Total random side note, by the way.
Sure.
Have you ever seen Over the Top with Sylvester
Yes.
Stallone? I just
Yes.
watched that yesterday on fucking YouTube. If that is not the most 80s
Oh.
ass
Oh yeah.
movie.
Oh yeah. That is some. It's got like every trope from '80s, like an estranged dad and a kid. They're having a bonding thing, and then there's arm wrestling, and then there's just a cliched line after a cliched line. Like
The one guy who just drinks a can of motor oil
oh,
before he
right,
starts going. I'm like,
right.
what is this fucking The only thing I could think of is like, wow, Sylvester Stallone. He sounds like he can actually talk like a normal ass human. What happened? And I'm like, you know what? That's it. He drank the motor oil between scenes.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to a horrible podcast. My name is Zach Flighters with Old Man Gaming, and with me sometimes is
Neil, aka a tiny wizard.
Yes. So Neil is joining us again. Before we get into the rest of the disclaimers and credits, everybody's got tough schedules, so you guys will always be hearing my tired ass old voice. But Neil and Logan are going to rotate in and out when they can, just because. So everybody get used to differing point of views. Eventually, we're going to have all three of us on. That's my goal. At some point, all three of us will be on. So going into
Is there enough room in the Quantum Studio for that, though?
Yeah. We've got the DARPA funds for it. It's also it's also like a TARDIS, so it's bigger on the inside.
Good. I didn't want more breathing.
It actually is a TARDIS. We just don't want to get copyright striked. Disclaimers, we don't, as of yet, do this professionally. Only 920 more subscribers to go, and we can change the way we say that. But so this is going to be rough. Not as rough as last week, but rough. Please enjoy. Then, of course, credits. My brother, Nicholas Van Sliders, wrote and performed the theme song that you just listened to at the top of the show. So we thank him for that. Of course, we thank Mark Bell for all the original graphics that go into the show. Thank you very much, Mark Bell, on the YouTube side of things. Okay, so top of the show, we like to do fan interaction. Fan interaction is where we read out you guys' comments from previous shows. We also ask you guys questions. And when we riff a little bit about it. So last week's question was asked by Logan. He had asked this question before and didn't get any responses, but this time he did get some responses, and that was, how many hours have you played one specific game? Like, what's your most hours played, which you can check over the Xbox. So let's get in. A lot of you guys had something to say on this one, so let's click into it. First of all, Logan challenged anyone to beat him. He had, I believe, like over 1,400 hours with his basketball game, which is insane to me.
Yes.
Absolutely beyond the pale of insane to me. So let's start right with, I think, the clear-cut favorite to win. I haven't done the math on this one, but I'm pretty sure it beats Logan. And that's Kev Too Tall. He came in with Arma 3 at 706 hours and Sins of Solar Empire Rebellion at 605 hours. Two games I've never heard of, which is hard to do. So, Kev, are those PC games? Please comment below and let us know. I probably still have over 700 hours in Diablo 2, but he knows his World of Warcraft playtime was over 90 days when he quit. 90.
Oh.
I think that might set it, although I haven't done the math on Kayla. Kayla is the next person who responded. And she responded, pathetic. But my Sims 4 is currently at 978 hours. Sims 4 for 978 hours. I don't think anything else I play can ever top that. I'm going to bring up the calculator and calculate the hour amount on 90 days because I don't know which one of these won. Neil, what's your most played game?
I think that's going to be Skyrim. Skyrim, I have... It's like 185 hours or something in one character, which is, I mean, child's play compared to the rest of these. But I think it's also. I was just gonna say, I think it's because I hop between games a lot more. So the fact that I even got that much in Skyrim is in the first place is kind of impressive for me personally.
I think the same thing. I tend to hop between games. A lot, especially for my reviews. Like I unfortunately can't stay on games as long as I'd like to sometimes.
Yeah.
That being said, you want to know what my most played game is?
And what would that be?
It would be Monster Hunter World. And I have played it for 17 days and some odd hours.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, that even pales in comparison. Kayla's, no, Kayla is destroyed by Kev Too Tall. The 90 days in hours is 2,160 hours.
Oh, my Lord.
Kev Too Tall put 2,160 hours, and that also defeats Logan's 1,400. And also, I'm really glad Logan's going to college because 1,400 hours. Right. So anyway, and Kevin's middle-aged. So Kev, play all you want. Us middle-aged guys, we don't have to worry about actually accomplishing things anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then of course Phil Billy actually verbally told me his yesterday. He has 13 days in Borderlands 3, which I just want to point out is insane considering that game came out September. Like if we were doing instead of like an hour to hour comparison and just a ratio, Phil would destroy everybody because 13 days in 4 months is holy crap, that's a lot of game.
God, 13 days in 4 months. That's essentially like 3 days out of the whole month that is nothing but Borderlands.
I mean, honestly, that's all he plays though. It's one of the big reasons like we're doing a show later on in the month where I force him to play other games other than Borderlands. The only reason that works is because he literally just plays Borderlands. Although I think I've gotten him sucked in on another game, and I don't want to say what it is because it comes up in the show, so no spoilers on that. But,
oh yeah.
Okay, so that is fans who are. Oh no, wait, we got to ask a question.
Oh, all right. Do you have one? Because I got one.
Oh, great. No, anytime I don't have to think is awesome.
All right, so I'm gonna go with what is the best licensed game or licensed song in a game?
Ooh, best use of a licensed song in a game. I know exactly what mine is already, and I'm not going to say until next week. I'm going to keep that under the hook. But that's a good question, Neil. Great question. Love it. All right, so our first topic of the day is somewhat of a negative one, but it's negative against something that needs to be negative. And this was actually brought to my attention by a tiny wizard. Thank you, Neil. We always love to hate on Google Stadia. So Google Stadia is apparently giving away a Google Stadia with a subscription to Verizon Fios. So, Neil, hit us. What's Verizon Fios? And what's Verizon Fios? So let's start off right there.
So basically, the Verizon service is one of multiple fiber optic internet services that are making their way out and about into the world. So Verizon Fios is essentially like light speed internet. It's supposed to be hyper fast, low latency, this, that, and the other. And essentially, it's kind of funny because you essentially need a fiber optic internet connection to run Google Stadia. So it's basically giving you Google Stadia for free because you have the internet to run it. So we have already reached the point with Google Stadia that we're handing them out for free for anybody. Please, for the love of God, can you please use Google Stadia? Because nobody likes it.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to point out that technically Google Stadia hasn't even really launched yet. It's still that Founders Ridiculous Pack, which makes this even sadder. Like that would be like if Xbox was like, we got the X Series coming in 2020, and it got so little buzz that they just decided to give it away with an internet subscription. Like, we got these, we don't need them anymore. Like, this is, I think this is a definite bad sign for Google Stadia.
Good.
Yeah, it's also kind of a joke in itself, isn't it? Like, I mean, like, this is the internet you need to run it. So but so few people have it that we just got to give this away to people who get this internet.
Yeah, I understand that the Stadia is in its early stages, like a beta test pretty much almost, and we're going to do the full launch when all the new consoles come out, but like nobody was clamoring for this. They glommed onto the idea that everyone's going all digital subscription model, and they think that because that's what's being forced down everyone's throats on all of the major platforms, that, hey, people like this. No, that's just what we're given. So now we don't own anything, and we're just handed the console now, essentially, to do what we need to do to use the thing that we don't really want in the first place.
Right. And they completely botched the marketing on this as well.
Yeah.
Like they didn't market it right. They kind of laughed at people who asked them about the like owning physical copies and why is it full price when you don't own the license? You know what I mean? They kind of laughed it off. They did not have good responses in return. They did not treat this the way they should have treated this. And honestly, my problem isn't even the fact that it's all digital. My problem is the fact that they give you no equity with it and they charge you the same amount of money. That's my problem. Yes, it's cheaper to get the system right off the bat. I mean, not right now, not really, but it's cheaper to get the system off the bat because it's a subscription fee, but that subscription fee is infinite. Eventually, that's going to be more. That's going to go out the door more than however much you pay for a new system. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, the big issue that I have is, like, one that a lot of preservationists in the game industry have is when those servers get inevitably switched off. It doesn't matter. It unless this is like the greatest game system to ever come out, these servers are eventually going to get switched off. We've seen it with other games time and time again.
Yep.
When those servers finally go down, you'll be left with literally nothing but a plastic paperweight, and you'll be able to use the Chromecast, I guess, if you're going that route. But you will have nothing. So everything that you put into, again, going back to your no equity point, like you own literally nothing. They're just allowing you give them money, and the gracious gods at Google allow you, peasant, to play the game.
What's even worse about that too is it's not even just about no equity. They're charging you the same as if you were getting equity in it. If I go to GameStop, I can get a game cheaper, but if I go to GameStop, I'm getting a game for the same as cheaper, and I own that game. Whereas with Google, it's just like you said, those servers get turned off, you get nothing, but you're still paying full price. When I pay for Games Pass, which is a subscription fee, when I pay for that, I get to play those games, but I don't have to pay for the games too. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that's the big problem I have here. If Google had come out and been like, we're going to do a subscription service, it's $20 a month, It's the controller, and you don't have to pay for the games. I would actually considered it. I'm not gonna lie, and that's coming from the guy who's like king of games or equity. I would have considered it because it would have been good for the value, but there's no value in this. There's absolutely no value in it. You will eventually pay more than if you just bought a new system, and you're going to pay the same amount of money for your games and have less versatility with them.
Another thing to consider too with Stadia is the amount of data that gets used is astronomical. People who eventually would play on their phones whenever that feature comes to all phones across the board, if you're on a limited data plan, it is impossible for you. You will blast through your data cap 100%. And there are some home service providers who also still have data caps. So I forget what the actual specs were, but if you were to play a game straight like at 4K, highest settings, everything like that, you can go through like 2 gigs of data. I think it was like an hour or something like that.
Which is insane. I have 10 gigs of data, and I have some actually pretty big, ridiculous games on my phone. Like I run PUBG on that thing, and I don't get, for whatever reason, my phone does not get good internet service in my kid's bedroom. Every other room, the wireless works just fine, but that room, if I play on wireless, it kills it. So I've been turning off my wireless just when I'm playing those games, and I don't even go through a gig. Just consider like that. Like, just like in a month of 1 hour sessions every other night on data, I go through 3 or 4 gigs tops. This thing goes through 2 in an hour. Like that's insane. That's an insane amount. So I do want to shift this conversation just a little bit while we're still on the Google Stadia, because there was some other news that we didn't talk about on Google Stadia that actually came out a couple of weeks ago that I just want to hit since we're talking about Google Stadia. And that is the Savage Planet developer. And I cannot remember their name because I'm a terrible host. Let me just look it up real quick. Developer. This is why I do this next to my computer. What's worse is I do this so many times during a show and I don't even tell you guys.
Well, this is the first I've heard of it, so
right. Journey to Savage Planet you haven't heard of?
No, well, I meant you looking stuff up on your computer, but I mean Journey to the Savage Planet too. I don't think I've heard.
If you hear me typing, I'm looking up something on my computer. That's the key. If you could hear it in the mic, I'm looking it up. So it's Typhoon Studios. They were bought by Google. Stadia acquires them. They acquired the Journey to the Savage Planet developer. They did it a couple of weeks ago, and I just say, I think this is a genius move by the Journey to the Savage Planet people. And I know you're probably like, why? Why would you think that? So here's my theory on this, right? Google Stadia is going down in a blaze of glory, right?
Yeah.
So they go, for whatever reason, they go to Typhoon and they're like, hey, we really like your game. We'd like you to be a Google Stadia exclusive developer. Well, Typhoon can read the writing on the wall, so they take the money. They become a first-party studio. Google Stadia is going to be shut down in 2 years, and then they can just put out whatever game they're going to be working on everywhere because Google won't exist anymore. Well, Stadia won't exist anymore. So they get this money bump, and I don't even think they're planning on being exclusive. I think they're going to get this bump, and then I think Stadia is going to shut down before they ever need to like worry about it only being on Stadia.
That is if that's what they're doing, that is like almost like the most baller move ever.
Right?
Just like
I want to call it now.
Y'all will pay for me to make my game.
I want to call it now. I think in 2 years, when Typhoon Studio is probably ready to release their next game, because remember, it's a real small developer, and it took them quite a while to do Savage Planet. In like 2-3 years, when they're ready to release a game, Google Stadia won't exist anymore, and they're going to be able to release it on all the systems. I don't even think they're going to take take people off cross-platforming it. I wouldn't if I was in that company. I'd be like, we're still going to put a guy on making sure that it can go on Xbox and PlayStation 4, you know?
Yeah, I think that that's definitely going to be a thing. And I think you might see that with a lot of other, if there do wind up being other exclusive developers on Google Stadia. I don't think, I mean, they very well could be buying into the idea. It's like, well, maybe this is the future. Streaming is the future. And if that's the case, then more power to you. I will plant my flag in the ground right now that where we're at, it is not the future. Streaming is not there. We're not there yet. So if they want to go ahead and do this to better themselves, I mean, hey, if Google's willing to pay, go ahead.
Yeah. I think streaming is gonna be the future. I just think that it needs to be approached in a very different way than the way Stadia has done it. Yeah. Stadia basically just decided to be like, well, this is streaming and F everybody else, and that's the problem. Like they kind of went in with like cocksure, headstrong, we're Google, we just everything we do is money. And I think that really hurt them. I don't think they did their research right. I don't think they talked to the press correctly, and I think they made a lot of gamers mad instead of trying to coax them to what Stadia is. They just kind of got in everybody's face and told them this is gaming, and gaming was like, no, it isn't. I mean, you've got some interesting ideas, but until you present it the correct way, we're not going to give you any money. I mean, it's that simple. So we'll see. I don't think Stadia is around in 2 years. I think there will be streaming gaming in 2 years because of Project xCloud and stuff like that, but I don't think it's going to be Stadia.
Yeah.
Because I think Google will pull the plug the minute they realize they're taking a loss.
There is a website out there, I forget the name of it exactly, but I think it's something like the Google Graveyard. And it's a website dedicated to all of the projects that Google has killed.
And there you go. I mean, they've got a lot of money in this, so I don't think they quit fast, but I think when they realize they're not making money, they're going to be done.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So that brings us to my new segment, the segment where I am challenged to rant about something by whatever co-host is here this week. And I have 1 minute to give the best negative, crazy Zach rant I can give. And I've been all across the board so far. I think I got like a C, and then I got a B, and then I got an A. So Neil, you got a subject for me.
Yeah, and you know what? I think maybe on this one, we might want to bend the rules just a tiny bit.
Okay, all right.
I think on this one, I think we should rant for you to try to convince me of something.
Okay, all right.
Because we are at odds on this one thing, and I don't think that's ever going to change, and I'm pretty sure you already know where this is going.
Yeah, I do.
So we're going to let everybody else...
This is a good topic. I'm okay with the rule bending for this one.
We're going to let everyone in on this, if they haven't put it together by now, is... I'm going to have Zach try to convince me why live service games are just the best.
Okay. All right. Give me a second to think about this because this is going to be tough. Oh, man. I don't. If I'm getting scored on being able to convince you, I don't know if there's words. But,
you know,
but I'm going to try.
I think I'm going to take your points and not the level of convincing because
it's
let's
okay.
be real, you would need a long time for you to convince me.
I don't know if I could do it in 60 seconds. It is called With My Last Breath, so it is supposed to be like the rant at the end of the world. So, you know, if I go down yelling into the ether, I go down yelling into the ether. All right. All right. I'm drinking coffee. Let me put this together in my head.
Fantastic.
Okay. All right.
All right. Whenever you are ready. Are you ready?
Let me just think for one more second. I really want to have I don't want to have a bad week on this one because I had a really bad week the 1 week. Okay. All right. I think I'm ready.
All right, I'll give you a 3-second countdown, and then we're going to go.
Okay.
Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
There is a reason that games as service is better than the normal games that you go out and play. And I'm not talking about quality of game, not even maybe quality of story. The reason is the tail and the value. When you buy a games as service game, you know it's going to be supported for at least a year, probably 2. Hell, they're still supporting Anthem. That thing's a barrel fire, and that thing still has gotten a year of support, and they're saying they're going to revamp it. The great thing about games as service is content. You are constantly getting content. You are never out of things to do. You never finish a game that you absolutely love because you never finish it. That's what's great about those games. The other thing about it is you get to decide the story yourself. You get to use your own imagination, and you get to take the things that the game is giving you and decide what's actually happening in your own head. And those are the best games. When they give you a playground and they give you some rules.
Time.
Man, I need like 3 more minutes at least. Oh, I think I did okay. I think I did a fighting chance. I got some good points in there, I think.
Yeah, you definitely. I think you made your points, but I think the issue is all of the game developers that I have that don't have enough stuff for me in the way that I need them to be. But that's not your fault. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give you a solid B-.
Okay.
I'll give you B- on that one.
All right.
It definitely, the value perspective, everything like that. I will say I shouldn't have to make my own fun because I'm not a game developer. But
Right. I mean, that's true. I don't disagree with that at all. But at the same time, like if someone was offering me, I don't want to spend a whole segment on this, but if somebody was offering me, this show just turns into us arguing about this point. If someone was to offer me, hey, you can have this game, it's got a really good storyline, but it's linear and it lasts when it's last and it's done when it's done, $50. Or you could have this game, which the storyline isn't necessarily linear and it's not exactly handcrafted, but there's story elements in it, and instead you just kind of get to do whatever you want in this really cool world forever. I would always pick the forever. I'd always pick the forever. It's just and it, I think in some respects it comes down to taste, but the fact that like I can always go back to a games as service game and it's the same thing. It'll be something. There'll be something new in it. There'll be an event or a thing or some content download or something, and I can do whatever I want in it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the real appeal for me. There's another thing too, and I think they make games as service games like this. It's not always games as service though that I love. Like I love a game that just gives me the rules and lets me make the story. Like, I've talked about this game a lot on the air. State of Decay 2 is like that, where it procedurally generates the characters. It procedurally generates like you get a base map. The map's generated procedurally generates what's in the map, and you just have to make a community. And every time you do, it's a different story that you. And right, it's not as specific. Like the relationships obviously aren't as like handcrafted and tailor-made because it's procedurally generated, but that kind of stuff just like it gets me every time because I can just go back to that game anytime and play in it, and it's going to be a different experience. Whereas if I go back to, I don't know, say like an Indivisible or some game like that where it's a very like handcrafted thing, it's going to be that every time, you know. But I appreciate that you're not arguing with me right now because I know you want to argue with me right now.
If I started, this would be the rest of the podcast. Right. Probably be like 3 hours long. I'm going to take it in stride. I'm just going to take it in stride.
I want to say thank you. I want to say to everybody listening out there, Neil is truly like falling on his sword to not be like, hey, Zach, fuck you. That's not at all what it is. He is. I can hear through the microphone him just like, move on. Move on. We've got other topics. Okay, so moving on, we are now going to talk about a couple of games that either one of us have respectively gotten to play. If you've been watching my channel, you saw yesterday, not yesterday, we're recording this on Wednesday. You saw on Tuesday of this week, I posted a quick video of my first impressions of Disintegration. I got into the closed beta last minute. I must have been the last guy they invited. I got the invite at 9 p.m. the day before it started at 8 a.m. So, but I got in and I got to play it. And it was a lot of fun. Did you get a chance to watch my video there, Neil?
I saw just a brief bit of it without sound. I was in the middle of doing stuff, so I had the video playing a little bit.
That's fair. We have lives. So, Disintegration, I don't know a lot about the story. There was an IGN first on it where they just like touched on it real loosely, where everybody's like robots and all people are like in some sort of weird cryo sleep. I don't get it. But basically the minute-to-minute action of the game is you're this guy on this grav cycle thing with a different weapon loadout. You kind of fly around. You command a crew as well, and you kind of shoot other people. And then it's kind of your standard multiplayer tropes. From what I played, there was like a domination mode where it's like capture the point, hold the point sort of thing. And then there was something akin to capture the flag. But the thing that I really want to hammer home about this game is how different it feels from other shooters right now. It has like this real slow, methodical feel, and just nothing is doing that right now. Everything is like faster, faster, faster. Twitch gameplay, Twitch gameplay, Twitch gameplay. And this is not that. It's a real methodical war of attrition. I mean, did it look interesting, the stuff you saw?
A little bit. I do like that it is a little bit slower because I'm not that big a fan of like shooters getting faster and faster. I mean, that being said, I loved Doom and it's like hyper fast paced, but that's not primarily the multiplayer. I steered clear of the multiplayer because you get people who just are just the most bestest in the world at that.
Well, and it's the same with a lot of these battle royales, like Apex Legends. It's like you spend 40 minutes running through. It's even worse because it's not like a Halo or a Call of Duty. We're moving out of that realm of shooter. You know, we've had the now we're moving into this battle royale kind of phase where you run through a field for 40 minutes before you run into anybody, and that's real rough for fast time to kills. And I don't know that people understand that much, but like when you have a fast time to kill in a multiplayer shooter like that, it's running through a field for 40 minutes before getting pegged in the head by a sniper on a hill and having to start the whole process over again, you know?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues that I have with something like Call of Duty and the multiplayer with that is you're just constantly dying. You have to like if somebody's got a wide skill gap, you don't have a chance. You spend most of your time dying, dead, respawning. Right.
This game is definitely really interesting on how they move, and the nuance of the game is just you have time to think, which is usually not like it has to be just like drilled into your head what you're going to do next. This isn't like that. It's very slow and methodical, and I really enjoy it. I do worry about the game finding its place in the market right now, just because everybody is all about the speed.
Sure.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun for me. A lot of fun. Do you have any questions about it other than that, or we'll move on to the other one we want to talk about?
No, I was just wondering. Well, when do we have a full release on that? I know you said it's closed beta right now.
Okay, all right. I'm so glad you asked this because this was a topic I wanted to talk about, and I know everybody out there thinks that we just rehearsed that, but we didn't. I totally forgot to talk about this part, and you reminded me, so thank you. So here's the real weird part about this. It gets some E3 buzz last year, right? Okay. Even though apparently not enough that you hadn't even heard about it until I talked about it, which surprised me.
Right.
But it did get a little E3 buzz last year. That's how I found out about it. they said release window. They gave a release window of spring 2020, which is it's about to be spring 2020. Here's what's really weird about it, though. Okay, so like, and stop me if you think I'm wrong, but here's how betas kind of work in video gaming for the most part. There's two types. There's one type, which is just they put the game out in kind of a broken kind of state so that you can play it and they can continue to work on it over years. And that's just, they put it out. Usually that is something you pay for. It either goes into game preview or I don't know what they call it on Steam. I think it's just beta or something. But there's that kind of beta. That's just an ongoing beta until the game just suddenly releases and it's just out, you know? Mm-hmm. Like PUBG was in beta until a year ago, you know?
Right.
Darwin Project just came out of beta, and I played that last year a long time ago. That's something they do. That's a technique for making games. Mm-hmm. Then there's another type of beta. The other type of beta is a stress test technical beta, which is what this is. This is what they've said it is anyway. And that's usually like closed and either closed or open. And they do it like 2-day periods. They'll do like, we got a beta from this day to this day. That means you can play a certain feature that we're trying to stress, because they're trying to stress test the servers. The game's done, and they're trying to like see if their servers can handle the volume of players that it needs to handle.
Right.
Are you with me?
Yes.
Are you?
I have
those kind of.
I was just gonna say I have no qualms with your explanation.
Okay. Those kind of betas almost always come 1-2 months before the release of a game. That's the other thing I like to say. They're usually really close to the release of the game. Would you also agree on that?
Yes. Well, for the most part. Depends.
For the most part. They usually aren't like a year away. It's usually like a couple of months. Like usually people have already pre-ordered it, and that's how they get into the beta. Mm-hmm. There is no release date for this game. None. Anywhere. They still have not announced a release date, but they have 2 betas. They have the closed beta, which finishes up tonight, Eastern time. I think it's like 3 a.m. It stops. And then they have an open beta, which anybody can just play the open beta out there. If you guys want to play the open beta, it's 31st. It'll go live at 11 a.m. and then it'll stop at 3 a.m. the next day because they're on Pacific time. But it'll be the 31st to the 1st. So like 2 days you can play it. Anybody can play it. But like, why are you stress testing? We don't even know when this is coming out. You can't pre-order this game.
I mean, I think it could have something to do with they want to gauge reaction. I mean, that's just one of the many types of betas. I mean, I forget the name of it, but it was basically Halo with portals that was shown off.
Oh, yeah.
They showed it off again last year, but I think they showed it off like 2 years ago, and they've already had a beta. They took the feedback. Yeah, like it's already been in 2 different betas that I know of.
Right.
And they're still fine-tuning it. So, I mean, this beta could also be like, let's see the feedback from it. And from there, they don't want to make a crap game. So if it's what people don't want, they'll fine-tune it maybe.
You make a good point. They don't usually do those betas on consoles, though, which is, I think, what's throwing me off. Usually, if you get a beta like this on a console, it's usually like, we just want to make sure we've got enough server power, you know?
Right.
And we didn't miss any, like, lingering bugs, which there were some bugs in this game. I'm not going to lie. There was a couple of visual bugs I noticed, and there was definitely some frame rate dips here and there. But, I mean, that's stuff. That's what the beta's for, so I'm not kind of counting it against, you know?
Right.
But I still think it's real weird that we're getting this beta and we don't even have a release date. We still only have a release window. And what's even weirder to me too is it's not even like a release window, like it's coming out sometime this year. Like it's spring, so it should be out in like within the next 2 to 3 months. Mm-hmm. And we still don't have a release date. Like that's what's really weird. Usually we have a release date. If a game's coming out 2 to 3 months from now, we have a release date 6 months ago, you know?
Well, I think that they might actually be using their brains because we have a lot of games out there that get announced for a release window. I mean, look at all of the delays that have happened so far
Oh,
in
yeah.
just this month alone.
Yeah, we can't go down that road again. We
I know.
we talked about those delays 2 weeks in a row, and it's driving me nuts. But we can't talk about that anymore unless
Right.
another game gets delayed because, yeah. But I'm with you. Like, that is true, and I hope that is what they are doing. That would be really nice. So, but okay, the other game we wanted to talk about today is a game that I am not a player of, but Neil, if you're on, we got to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3. I am assuming you got the Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC. It did not get the greatest review on IGN. Since I knew we were going to talk about this, I made sure to look up the review and read it. I want to hear your opinion, though.
I am going to preface what I'm about to say as I have been a diehard fan for pretty much since the inception of the series. I've gotten every single game, the deluxe editions of the game. I am the fan, basically. I was taken advantage of by Square Enix for $30 for this DLC. So
That's heavy.
Here's the thing. For those who may be listening and may have not finished the game, I'm going to get in mild spoilery territory for the end of the game, but it's required to tell you what this DLC is.
So if you guys want to avoid Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC spoilers, I mean, on the audio version you really can't, but I timestamp stuff on YouTube, so just skip this section.
So just to lay it out there for everybody else, so at the end of the game, basically in the third entry, they introduce time travel and this, that, and the other. So the game pretty much kind of becomes like this weird Back to the Future thing with people from the second game not actually being there. Confusing stuff. If you're not up on the story, it's not going to make a lot of sense anyways. But the big problem that I have is the last section of the game. You play through it, the ending happens, a main character gets killed off, and then, like, in the credits gets resurrected. And we're like, hey, how does that happen? Well, I'll tell you what. Square Enix, for $30, will tell you the real ending of the game. And it's not just like what happens in between? That happens for maybe 15 minutes of the 5 hours total of playtime for this DLC. The whole DLC, that's the story part of it, you play through the ending of the game again, essentially the same as it was, with the exception of 2 different boss fights, and you can choose to play as different characters with them. And there's like 3 new lines of dialogue. Oh, and the beginning of it, there's a half hour, no exaggeration, half-hour cutscene.
Good Christ, dude.
I cannot, as a rational human being, advise anybody to get this DLC. The only, quote, new stuff that's really in it, the big meaty bits of it, unlock after you finish the DLC story. And that there, to accomplish, there's like 13 or 15 boss fights that you've already done, but they basically have been given stupid health and stupid damage output for you to fight a secret final boss that will give you a little glimpse at Kingdom Hearts 4 or something, whatever that's going to wind up being.
Oh, wow.
And you have to basically be max level for that. So I don't have time for this. I'm still struggling to just level up. I'm struggling to level up on the principle of I just spent $30 on a DLC for the end of the game that I already played. I'm kind of upset.
That's insane. I feel like some story games, they just, especially when it's a trilogy and it's ending a trilogy, you don't need a season pass. You don't need DLC on this one. They should have just like let the sleeping dogs lie, it sounds like.
I think that if they would have gone with the DLC ending as the original ending, then they would not have, like you said, needed any of that, and they could have knocked the DLC down to like $15 and just
Right.
added the secret boss fights and call it a day. I honestly almost feel literally betrayed by this because I was that one who waited, Jesus, 7 years for this game to even come out in the first place. And when I finished it, I was just like, okay, well, I mean, maybe the fact that I waited 7 years for a single game for the sequel that's been being teased by like three previous game entries as just like a teaser for the final game, like maybe it was just too much hype and I got overwhelmed. The DLC gets announced and I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to be where everything's really going to start making sense and open up because like I've been able to follow the story up into this point and I can't anymore. I can't. I literally can't.
Oh man, I'm sorry, man. That sucks too, because I can totally back you up. I have watched you. I have watched you want this game to the point where I've definitely watched you because I've trolled you about it, and that's been a secret joy of mine, making fun of you for how much you wanted this game. And now I can't even make fun of you. I just feel bad. Like that's terrible. To like, are you going to get another? Is there another DLC coming out that might correct this?
I don't think so, and I hope not. I think if I do even consider spending another $30 on this game, because, like I said, I buy every single special limited edition, whatever, because this, up until now, frankly, has been my favorite game series out there. And this DLC on its own, combined with the letdown that was Kingdom Hearts 3 on its own, frankly, in my opinion, it was not as good as any of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to wait and see on that. And even with a new entry in the series, I will follow it and watch it, but I don't think it's going to be a day one purchase at launch for me. I can't trust them anymore.
That hurts. That really hurts. That's how I felt when they did no DLC for Mass Effect Andromeda. It was like, I can't trust you guys to make a good Mass Effect anymore. What kind of world are we living in where there's the people who made Mass Effect are bad now? Like, what happened? Man, I feel for you, man. It's the same thing with you guys. I do want to just, on a digressive note, if anybody's wondering if anybody needs an example on how me and Neil's video game tastes differ, all the reasons he loves Kingdom Hearts is all the reasons I love games as service games. Not the same reasons. I mean, in spite of it.
Yeah.
But that's terrible, man. That's absolutely terrible. And I hate it when companies do this. I feel like now we just live in this like tail end gaming society, which I like the tail. I really do. But if you don't have anything to say, don't say it, you know?
Right. And that's kind of what this turned out to be, is just it's just like, I think it was literally just a cash grab, and I almost wonder if the words were spoken, well, they'll eat anything up. Like, that's one of their main justifications for this, because we don't need it. We don't need this. We don't need any part of any of it.
I want to ask you something real quick. Hypothetical. Before we get off this topic, because now I'm just interested. Hypothetically, what should they have done with the DLC? What would have been the DLC that you would have been like, this is great?
Okay, so I would say more spoilery stuff. So at the end of the game, they have a secret ending video that if you meet certain requirements on certain difficulties, that you get to watch this video, and it's a teaser for whatever it is that they're going to do next. I think that video, if I remember correctly, does end with just the phrase "remind." Like, if they would have gone into that as a teaser for the next game and it been that and setting up whatever they wanted to set up, I think that would have been worth my time and money and everything like that.
Okay.
With this, the outside of that, I honestly, like, there's no reason. And I looked at some of the other reviews too. They all have the same gripes that I have. It's just a retread of the same shit that's been done over and over again.
Yeah, that's honestly what IGN said too. They said it's not just a retread, but it's an even more confusing retread.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's dumb.
All right. Okay, so we got a very special thing next. And that is, we always end the show on some weird segment. Sometimes it's Fantasy Corner. Sometimes it's What Are We Playing? Other times it's been lists. Today, we're doing something new, and it is called the Horrible Arena. Now, what is the Horrible Arena? So we get enough commenters out there now, you guys, that we are going to bring you in on another segment. What we're going to do, like I said, we're trying to get all three of us on the podcast eventually, but for now, we're going to pick a subject, a game type, a topic, that will be the subject of a game. Then all of the participants of the show get to come up with the developer they want to develop it, and then they get to do an elevator pitch of the game to you guys out there. And then you guys get to comment below and tell us which one you thought won, which game you would rather play. So I'm super excited for this. This is kind of Neil's brainchild. So we were waiting for Neil to be on the episode to do this one. So the subject one today is open world games. And I'm really excited about this one. So the way it's going to work is we've decided via a fake coin flip between segments that Neil will be going first. Wait, I'm going first,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm going first. Neil's going second. And then, like I said, we'll end the show. You guys can comment, and depending on how you guys comment, we'll define a winner next week. So super excited for this. So, all right. So I'm going first, right, Neil?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the subject, the topic of the game, I don't know if I already said it, is open world game. Like we're pitching on our open world game. So here comes my open world game. First of all, I'm going to develop my developer right off the bat is going to be Playground Games. They are to give anybody context, they make the Forza Horizon series and probably eventually the Fable series. Here's what I want out of it and the reason I picked them. There is a game that is lacking out there that just doesn't have good representation. I wouldn't use the license, but I would make a wasteland car violence scavenger game. My game would have you basically create a character right off the bat, anything you want, man or woman, and then it would start you in this post-apocalyptic wasteland. You'd have a big map, a lot of locations, a lot of areas. You'd get a starter car, and the driving mechanics would have to be great in this game because driving is good. It would be like basically Borderlands, but with the cars as the centerpiece instead of the guns. So you would drive from point A to point B. There would be a series of factions that would kind of rule different areas. You'd probably have a faction that rules the cities, and a faction rules like more of a desert area. You could raise your rep with them by killing people of the other factions to then get missions from them. You could also just loot hunt. There would be a ton of dungeons in it as well. And by dungeons, I mean there would be like cities that have collapsed and you have to move through the broken down buildings, collecting scrap and gear to upgrade your weapons and guns. Now, I know what you're all saying out there. There is an open world game. It's called Mad Max. And that is...
Sorry, I was literally just thinking that.
I know. But it doesn't do it the way it should be done. I liked that game. It wasn't terrible, but it was Batman. It was Batman Arkham Knights with driving mechanics. It was all right, but it wasn't what I want this to be. This would be like a really immersive, in the game, in the moment shooter stuff. And it wouldn't be necessarily story driven. It would be more moment to moment. Like you generate your character and you go out in the world and you do your thing. And I think that would be the game that I would choose. I suppose I have to give it a name. We have to give these names, don't we?
You know what? Yeah, I think that should be a requirement.
All right. I'm going to call mine Blacktop.
Okay.
That's mine. So Project Blacktop is mine. I think I'm going to lose this one. I can't wait to see what Neil has. That's mine. Remember, everybody, vote Project Blacktop in the comments. All right. Neil's up. I got to shut up now, which is very hard for me.
So imagine almost like let's just say you start the game up. You put the game in and you see just a logo screen that's plain white with plain black text. It's called Headspace. And you are just placed as a very nondescript character in the middle of this blank space, and you can start just doing and making things just wherever. This game would take place in basically your own mind, and you basically just kind of make whatever you feel like making, almost like a Minecraft. But the best part is it's not like fleshed out horizontally, it's fleshed out like a big sphere. You go inside, and let's say you are in a happy headspace today. In one corner of this little blank space that represents your mind, you might make a nice, great little village over here in the corner, just happy with flowers and rainbows and puppies and shit. And the other side, let's say you're not feeling too good, something happened to you in the real world, and you want an outlet to create just a dark area. Maybe it's not like depressing, but just kind of like rain clouds, very somber. And those worlds, from the time that they're created, start to self-populate and change based off of the other parts of your, quote, brain in your headspace. So let's say one day you just have an overwhelmingly bad day and you spend more time in that dark area. Maybe that side kind of like powers itself up, and like enemies and stuff will go over and start attacking the stuff in the good part of your brain, almost like your demons, essentially. And I think that this game would be a good metaphor and almost a statement for mental health. That you would be able to have an outlet to share how you feel, almost something like dreams, to where you can just create whatever, but have those creations all be tied together in one single space. And I think Bethesda would have to make this, because let's be real, in something in a headspace in your brain, bugs, glitches, weird shit happening, you gotta have, just like boxes just randomly flying off into the ether for no reason, and being able to cheat and glitch out and whatever in those regards. But
I'm trying not to talk.
But I'm thinking, I think that's, I didn't verbalize it as well as I thought I would be able to. But I
think you verbalized it very well. I'm not gonna lie. I think you verbalized it very well.
Yeah, I think that would be my game.
Okay, so Headspace, who's the developer?
Bethesda.
Oh, Bethesda.
Yeah, Bethesda.
That's points against. You had me until you said Bethesda.
Well, that was what I was saying. Is
the flying off boxes.
The flying boxes, okay. And just like randomly, just stuff happening, bugs. Have that be like just random thoughts. You could just wave it away. Bethesda finally would have an excuse to use their same old engine.
I didn't even catch that when you said it the first time. I caught the glitch part. That's okay. All right, everybody out there. This is a tough one. I think you've got Project Blacktop versus Project Headspace, and I gotta say, this is the immortal battle right here. I love that we did right off the bat. We've got basically what every AAA game studio wants to make, and then versus bases what every artsy fartsy indie studio wants to make. It's like it's like a total analogy for our relationship as gamers.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I would say.
I will say, personally, I would play both these games. I'm going to say that right now. Like, I would play both these games. I would play them quite a bit. They're very, very interesting. So that's how I feel. I would definitely play both these games.
Oh, 100%.
So you guys out there get to decide. Comment below here or comment on our Facebook page. Or if you're my friend and I know you, just tell me. And we will decide the winner based on you guys' comments, who you guys thought won. So, yeah. I will say I'm very interested to see what some of our listeners who are related or otherwise attached to us will be.
Yeah.
like I'm gonna love the day if I don't think I will on this one, but I'm gonna love the day where I convince your wife that my game's the better one, and the same thing when you convince my brother-in-law that your game's the better one.
That would be very interesting.
I can't wait for those days.
But I feel like that is also an inevitability.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think I'm really excited for this. So please, everybody out there, especially the people who listen every week, comment, and please do so before next Wednesday because we record this on Wednesday. So, okay, that brings us to the end of the show. Neil, do you have anything special to plug this week?
Nah.
Okay.
I'm here.
I'm here. Right. Well, I got a ton of shit to plug, so I'll go ahead and plug. Check out everything that is Old Man Gaming. We do reviews on Monday. My last review was Indivisible. Neil, you specifically need to watch that review if you haven't already.
I'm definitely going to have to go through the whole thing.
That game will interest you, my friend. I was playing that game like, Neil needs to play this. Like every other minute, I was like, Neil needs to play this. Just like when Battlefront 2, I was like, Logan needs to play this. Neil needs to play Indivisible. So Indivisible is my review this last Monday. We do that every Monday. Wednesdays is Borderlands 330, my playthrough with resident Borderlands expert Philbilly330, who also, segue, does build videos, which you could check out here. We should have a new build video coming up. A new build video should be either out already or coming this week before the end of it. Friday, the podcast. Thursday, the podcast of audio version. And then you can also check out, finally, my first impressions of the Disintegration closed beta. So we're doing a lot of stuff, guys. We have a lot of stuff for everybody. Please check it out. Like, subscribe, let us know in the comments, and we read your stuff out. We have you on the show. That's what we are. We're an interactive podcast. So, Neil, again, I'm going to stop thanking you because you're officially a co-host. So I don't know why I keep feeling the need to thank you, but you're officially a co-host. I don't know who it's going to be next week. It's either going to be Neil or Logan. One of these weeks we'll get all three of us on. But for now, we will see you guys later. As long as you guys keep listening and watching, we'll keep making them. See you guys next week.